Hello everyone, we are the A team. Our project was to create a network visualization of individual UFC fighters and the fights that have occurred between them. So on this network, each fighter is represented as a single node, and the lines between the nodes means that those two individuals have fought on one or more occasions. So you can see that the fighters are divided by weight class. They correspond by color, and the labels correspond to the position of the weight class. And you can go ahead and hover over a label, and it will give you info on that weight class, and it will highlight the individuals that are within it. So, to get some information on an individual fighter, we can just go ahead and hover right over them. We'll get a tooltip, and we will get the name of the fighter in the tooltip and the names of the adjacent fighters, as well as those fighters coming into focus and everything else fading away. The tooltip actually attempts to be somewhat smart in its placement. It's not perfect, but you can see it tries to obscure as few neighbors as possible, because in such a densely populated graph, that's a bit of an issue. So let's drill down a little more and find an individual fighter like Anthony Johnson. We'll click on him, and now we just get his local network, and on the right hand side we get a breakdown of all of his fights. So a green dot on this means that he won that fight, and a red dot means that he lost that fight. The y-axis is the number of rounds that the fight lasted, and so you will see it's 1 through 5 both below the axis and above the axis, where above is winning and below is losing. The 1 is furthest from the x-axis because winning or losing during the first round is a more extreme outcome than fighting a hard 4 rounds and then winning or losing. So once we have this, we can hover over a point on this graph, or on this plot, and it will then highlight within the local network on the side that link and that opponent, and will also give us a tooltip with details on the fight. So we can see this fight was 2011. It was won by decision, a unanimous decision, and it lasted 3 rounds. We can also see some, such as this fight was won by TKO, that means technical knockout. There's also a submission, and there's a KO. So there's various different ways to win a fight, and you can get the information there. And the nodes with the gray border means that the opponent is not included in this network, and we will talk a little bit about how we decide what does and doesn't get included in the network later. But you will notice the colored ones all correspond to someone in the network. Now you can also go over here and hover over one of the adjacent fighters, and it will highlight which fight or fights was against that opponent. Now this person only has 1 fight against each opponent, but we can click on other fighters and it will get to their local network, and in this way we can click around and see what these local networks look like. I'm trying to find one with a thicker line, which indicates that multiple fights have occurred between the individuals. Let's see, there's the thick line, this purple. So Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, they have had 3 fights between them, and you can see all 3 are getting highlighted. You can also navigate this local network by clicking directly on these nodes in the individual graphs. Okay, so we can also zoom back out and get the whole network. And as I mentioned earlier, not every single data point is in this network because there are thousands of UFC fighters. So you'll see up here, we only included fighters that have 10 or more fights. So one way that we allow the user to get more or less specific, if they want, they can change this minimum threshold. So as you have a higher minimum threshold, the network becomes smaller because not many people have had 15 or more fights. If you go down, the network becomes much larger, and unfortunately slower and harder to understand. So we thought 10 was a pretty good happy value, but Even you can get all the way down to 5. It takes a while to load, and it's interesting to look at, but it's hard to gain much from it. But if you want to, you still can, and you can drill down. I did not previously mention that the size of the nodes corresponds to win percent. So you can see David Mitchell only has a 20% win rate, and he has quite a small node, whereas Dong Hyun Kim has 80%, and he has a much larger node. Let's get back up to 10 fights so we can make some more sense of this graph. Now, another way to filter the graph is to click on the weight classes, and then that class will be removed from consideration. So you can just focus on a single weight class if you want. One thing I found interesting is if you do this, lightweight and heavyweight, there actually are a few fights between lightweight and light heavyweight, which is a 3 weight class difference, which is quite impressive that someone that light would be taking on someone that heavy. That's 150 pounds versus 190. And if I remember correctly, one of these fights, not this one, let's see if I can find the other one, the lighter person was actually the victor. And see, the green circle over here indicates that he won that fight. So this is a way you can look for interesting data, drill down, filter what you care about, and then click and drill down, see exactly what happened. And that was a 2-round fight. And you can see they have a 50-pound weight differential, so quite impressive. Now another thing that we included, because this network can get busy, and if you want to look for a certain thing or a certain person, it can be hard to know which node is which person because we can't have the name labels on all the time. So you can hover around and try and look for the person's name. But say we care about Gray Maynard, say we already know about him and he's our favorite UFC fighter. We can simply search by his name, even just his first name, Gray, and it'll briefly highlight that node so we can identify where it is and then zoom in and get some more information. And you'll even see that Gray has a yellow node, which is a draw. So that pretty much sums up what our InfoViz can do. Thank you for watching.